Hello. As you can see, I moved a few things around in the background a little bit. I got a new wall scroll up. I put my latest keyblade in the corner. Um, this is actually the first video I've done after I kind of moved a few things around. I'm actually having to get this room ready for me to use for me to work from home because my job is going to make me have to be working from home fully by the end of the year. So I needed to adjust a few things around the room just so that way I had room to have a second laptop for me to be able to have for my work stuff, which the laptop is provided by work. I don't have the money for a second laptop. So, um, let's talk about Ralph Breaks the Internet. Okay, so this is going to be the review for the movie Ralph Breaks the Internet, which came out in 2018. It is the sequel, of course, to Wreck-It Ralph. And it still centers around Ralph and Vanellope and their friendship, and of course, even like the characters at the arcade, but moving on into the internet as opposed to just staying within the confines of the arcade. And of course, this movie, of course, has the whole, epic scenes where you have, all of the Disney princesses all together for the first time, in, a Disney media project that's not a video game. And even by that standards, even by those standards to a degree, Kingdom Hearts, as I've talked about before, the princesses, all of them are not ever all in the same place at the same time. In like the first Kingdom Hearts game, you do have like all of the princesses of Heart plus Alice for some reason, as in Alice in Wonderland, because she's one of the princesses of Heart. And Ariel is not a princess of Heart because of reasons. And I don't remember 100% if Pocahontas is in the Kingdom Hearts games or not off the top of my head. But this is, this movie has the first time where you get to see them all together, plus Vanellope, plus, Aurora and Anna and Elsa, who are, for some reason, not Disney princesses. But okay, so the movie came out in 2018. It starts off still at Litwick's arcade, and it's about 6 years or so after the events of the first movie. Ralph and Vanellope are, of course, still best friends, having their general adventures all over, Game Central Station. Let's go play in, Tron, which is just, they run around in Tron and there's a glitch in Tron and they keep, getting trapped in the glitch at times, so they have to get pulled out of the glitch. They, talk about other characters in the other games and stuff like that. And they're friends, of course, with the other characters in the other games. You see, you see a bunch of the different characters running around. You see them also in like, I think it's Madden Football is one of the other games that you see them in. You see them like, on the you're laying on the turf on the field, just, throwing, with Ralph, throwing the football up and down. You see them having fun in, a bunch of different other games, which is just kind of fun to see, because you get to see them interact with, other games and other characters. They go to Tappers, which I am not familiar with the game Tappers. It's still the whole thing of like, oh, let's have a game where your job is to like be a bartender and serve all these guys in like a turn of the century bar. I'm not sure. I don't quite get where that came from, but they go there. They serve root beer there. I don't think they actually serve any actual alcoholic beverages. But of course, you have all the characters still running around there as well. We see, Fix-It Felix, we see Calhoun, we still see Sonic, we see, the characters from Street Fighters, the other characters from, so many of the other games and everything. And what ends up happening is, Vanellope and Ralph are kind of like in this, happy, one day after the next type of thing. Oh, Ralph's pretty happy with it. Vanellope's pretty content with it too at the beginning of the movie. And then one of the things that happens is Litwack comes along one morning and he plugs in this new thing that's called Wi-Fi. And of course, Ralph is like, Wi-Fi, Woofy, Wi-Fi, it's either a tennis game or a new arranged marriage game. No, Ralph, those are called waifus. which is what the Disney princesses are to some people, and I'm sure what you are to someone in regards to being a husbando. Um, um, and Sonic explains, no, Ralph, it's called the Wi-Fi. It connects us to the internet. And you're able to go on the internet and see all this information and knowledge and everything from all over the world, and all this fun stuff that you see on the internet and everything. And Ralph and Sonic kind of gives him an explanation of this. And what ends up happening and end up being the surge protector guy, or the security guy in the Grand Central Game Central Station is like, no one's going to the internet. Go back to your jobs. It's time for the arcade to open. They all head back to their jobs in the arcade, and there are various games and everything like that. And Vanellope makes a comment that, she's just a little bit bored in her game. She's like, I've unlocked every track. I know the whole game, backwards and forwards to a degree. And, I just want something different. So Ralph actually does something rather nice. He goes into her game and he, uses his, wrecking ability to, go through and, make a new path for her to go on. And what ends up happening is, Vanellope gets back into her game, and she basically has the mindset in the game of teasing Taffeta, of course, and she's just like, oh, I can do this game backwards and forwards with my eyes closed and everything. She's like, I know all the different, what the gumballs are going to do, all the other things, what the other racers are going to do to a degree. I guess the main variable in that would be whether or not, whoever the person, playing the game is. And that morning they have Swati and Nafisa are the two girls that are playing the game. And what ends up happening is Ralph has, made this new pathway in the game, and, Vanellope sees this, and while the girls are still in control, they end up, they go on to this new track, and, it's like, oh, we must have unlocked a bonus level or something like that. And they're driving through it and everything, and then the two girls that are playing are like, well, we got to get back to the game or else we're going to lose the race. And they want to go back to the game. Vanellope in the car itself in the game is wanting to stay on the path. So the basically what ends up happening is the wheel that's the control wheel for the game ends up getting broken. And Litwack attempts to fix it and then breaks it more, unfortunately. And so all the different, game characters in the game are seeing what happened, that, the game got broken, the controller got broken. So we have to, what are we going to do? And Litwack, as I said, he tries to fix it, breaks it more. And he, says, okay, well, we need to get a new wheel for this, but the company that makes them is out of business. So all the kids just instantly pull out their phones and Google where to find find a new one, and it's it's on eBay, and it says $200 steering wheel, and he's like, well, that's more than this game makes in a year, and it so it wouldn't be worth buying a new steering wheel in order to get the game, in order to keep making the game work. So he's like, well, I can always sell it and salvage it for parts and everything. So he goes and he's gonna unplug the thing, so all the game characters in Candy Rush or in Sugar Rush, not Candy Rush, Sugar Rush, are, running out of the game as fast as they can, and, Ralph is helping them and everything, and, everybody gets out, thankfully, and they're all, waiting in Game Central Station, and they're all safe now. Or at least none of them got caught in the thing, which includes all the little candy citizens, and, of course, all the racers, and Vanellope, and all the other various other characters that are there, like Sour Bill and the two donut guys, two donut police officers. And they all they all escape and everything. And then it's okay, well, you can stay in the Game Central Station until the arcade closes down. Then we have to figure out a place for all of you to stay. From that, it basically ends up resulting in, Ralph and Vanellope are talking from, sitting on top of the, the building that's in Wreck-It Ralph, or in, Fix It Felix Jr. And what ends up happening is, Ralph and Vanellope are talking about it, and Vanellope's like, it's I didn't want, the game was a lot predictable, but, there were things that could happen, and that could change what would happen, and, that's what I liked, and, she's like, I just don't feel like I belong anymore. I don't feel whole without my game, which I can understand for her, She went from being this character within the game who got turned into kind of a glitch in the game, by King Candy in the first movie, of course, and then she helped fix everything and got back to where she was supposed to be and everything, and got back to her role there as the princess slash the President Vanellope von Schweetz. And what ends up happening is, she's just, really upset about it, and she heads off. And, within the building, we have, the guy who's like the Game Central Station, surge protector, whatever, security guy. And he's trying to get, homes for all the rest of the characters. And, like, most of the little characters have, like, headed off to go be in the other games. Kind of, I guess, can hide in certain parts of the other games so they're not noticeable while the game's going on, or whatever the case may be. And Fix-It Felix and Calhoun actually end up taking in the other racers, which is, I think, like 12 of the other, two of the other 12 racers, which is like Taffeta and, so many of the other racers. And the Surge Protector is, or I don't remember if he's a Surge Protector or if he's just like the security or whatever. He's just like, okay, here's the thing. You don't want, I was like, I get it. You've been married for 6 years. Your marriage is getting a little old. I can assure you, adopting 12 children or 13 children or whatever is not the way to spice up your marriage. It's insanity is what it is. And, it's just like, oh my God, why would you want to do that anyway in the first place? And like, so, but Calhoun and, Felix, adopt them. And then, of course, they're just, little monstrous imp of brats. Don't feed them after midnight. Don't get them wet. Whatever the other stuff you don't do with gremlins. And, like, there's brats that are just horrible to, like, Calhoun and Felix and having so much trouble. And Ralph is, sitting in games in, Tappers at the time. And, like, him, he's just, like, waiting for Vanellope to show up and everything. And, it's Felix that shows up. And, Felix and Ralph are talking, and Ralph's like, so what else happened? He's like, well, I just became the father of 12 or 13, whatever, racers, or 15, or whatever the racers' numbers are. I don't remember exactly how many there were, but, I'm the father of them. And it's just like, oh my God, why? And he's just like, oh God, and he just like grabs the root beer, like downs the entire root beer in one go. Which I guess is like the closest thing to, like, I guess drinking that Felix ever does, is drinking, the root beer from Tappers. And he's just like, oh God, Ralph, you have to find a way to fix Vanellope's game, because I am slowly losing my sanity, or very quickly losing my sanity right now. And via certain, odd noises that Felix makes and that Ralph ends up coming up with, they end up coming up with, oh, one of those kids says that there was a steering wheel at this place called eBay, and that's on the internet. So if I go to eBay and get the steering wheel, then the game will be fixed, and the game won't have to be salvaged, and Vanellope will have her place back, and everybody else will be, all the other, characters from Sugar Rush that, became gameless, homeless, will have a place to return to. And Felix is like, that's great, I'll cover for you, go, type thing, please. And like Ralph runs off and he finds Vanellope, and like she's still within like his game. She's like trying to build a brick racing car out of all the used bricks that are left over from when he smashed everything. And what ends up happening is Vanellope and Ralph head to where the Wi-Fi is plugged in, and they get past the surge protector by making up some emergency, and they head into the Wi-Fi router. And during the same time as Litwack is getting it set up again, is getting it all set up so that way he can have Wi-Fi, I guess. I'm assuming Litwack already had internet, but this is just setting him up for Wi-Fi. And so we see him using that. And I love the fact that, like, in his office, his computer, his computer is the same type of, like, those Mac or whatever, like, blue-backed computers that I had in school. That, were the computers that we had in school for a long time. And, like, the big, clunky things. And that's just like, I know those computers. I know what those were like to work with. So I know that. And like, this is where we get introduced to the little tiny avatars that go online. And in this case, the little avatar looks like Litwack and it heads into the internet. And then Vanellope and Ralph follow it. And, that's not a fun journey for Ralph. But they get into the internet and then it's just this like huge, giant looking city on top of city, buildings everywhere, giant websites giant buildings that represent so many of the different websites, the logos on them, huge things like that, big, pathways all over the place, colorful, you see like the little avatars are all the different, representing all the people in the real world that are, online. And, we see all of them running around and everything. And, so there's all of that, which I just find so funny. And, they end up looking around and they find, they end up, you get the pop-up joke where you have like all these different, pop-up ads pop up all over the place, in front of Ralph, ways to lose belly fat. These child stars went to prison. Guess who's, this one will shock you, blah, 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 and, one of them's this, green skinny guy that's, how, play video games and get money, how to make money playing video games, and, blah, 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 blah. Like, Vanellope and Ralph end up finding their way to, they end up having to, figure out how to get to eBay. So they end up seeing this search engine who is called Knows More. And first we see it interacting with like this lady who's like just using it as like a, just a regular search bar. And, I like how it does like the autofill jokes, which is just funny. And she's like, oh, I need like, ballet tights, girl size small, whatever. And like, like the Knows More character is like kind of interacting with her, but like helps her, find of course what she's looking for and like sends her on her way. And, Vanellope and Ralph end up talking to him and we keep getting like the autofill because Ralph goes, and he goes, umbrage, umbrage, umbrella, umami, blah, 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 blah. And, like, it's just, like, random, and, like, he's just like, no, it's art, no doubt, no, blah, blah, blah. And, like, I just love the autofill joke that comes with him. And, like, Vanellope's the one that just says, okay, here's what we need. Sugar Rush steering wheel type of thing. Sugar Rush steering wheel controller type thing. And he, sends them off to eBay. There's one that's for sale, and he sends them off to eBay. And, Vanellope is, of course, very polite to him. He's like, oh, such a nice girl. And, they head off to eBay. And, like, I love the joke where it's, like, Vanellope looking around at everything to figure out where, like, the games are. And, like, there's toys and sports and giant baby clothes called lingerie. And, just, like, oh, and then it's like, oh, well, there's the gaming section and the toy stuff and, the electronic stuff. So, that's where they head. And, like, there's, like, one steering wheel left and there's, like, 30 seconds left on the bidding. And, like, you see all these other bids going on around them on, like, different things, like a chip that looks like Beyonce and, a velvet painting of a cat or, like, a taxidermy beaver that's all being bid on eBay and everything. And Ralph and Vanellope get to where the steering wheel is, and it's the last one. It's like 30 seconds left, as I said. And they start bidding on the steering wheel. And, because there's another avatar there that's, bidding on it. And so it's like, oh, so we have to do, like, the bigger number. So they, keep upping everything, going up and up and up and up and up and up and up in price. And, like, you see the other guy who just goes, like, the avatar, because, like, the avatar can't see them. The avatar just can tell, kind of like in the real world, the avatar's like, the real person in the world is probably like, oh, okay, so they're just bidding really high. And then it's like really high. And he's like, no, I ain't doing that. And it's just like, sold. And like, they win it. And, the auctioneer's like, sold to the barefoot hobo in the broken overalls. Whatever the heck he calls it. Side note. They brought in actual, like, auctioneers to voice, like, the auctioning programs in eBay, which I just find hilarious. And, so, but what they ended up bidding was $27,001, which is not good. But, they won the bid, so they think that, oh, well, now the steering wheel's ours, so we just need to go and get the steering wheel, and, we can head back and get, send them, have them send it to Litwack, and then we're all good. and they head and interact with like the person at the checkout, and they get everything filled out, and she's like, now how are you going to pay for this? And they're just like, pay, and it just basically ends up resulting with like there's the okay, so there's the users who are like all the different avatars that you see running around that are like the square-headed characters that are representations of people in the real world who are using the internet. It's like, so like if I was, if when I use the internet, my concept for this is, oh, there's a kind of a internet version of me that is like this avatar that represents me running around, that is gets happy when I'm happy, looks sad when I'm sad, that type of a thing. Basically is like my way of interacting. The other characters that you see running around are what are just called, I think they're just called netizens, and like they're these like kind of the programs that interact with the character, that interact with the avatars. So there's this one that's sitting there that's like that's like getting Ralph and Vanellope checked out and everything, and getting everything all set for where the steering wheel's supposed to go. And she's like, now how are you going to pay for this? And like Ralph and Vanellope have no idea what she's talking about for getting credit card and bank account or whatever to get to buy the steering wheel, to pay for the steering wheel. And she like gives them this look that is the look that you give, that like the teacher gives you when you're so long past due on homework, and like you're just like, my dog ate it. She just like gives them this look of like, you have 24 hours to be able to pay this off. If you don't, your receipt will be invalid and you will no longer be able to get the item, type thing. And so they're just like, ugh. So they need to go and they need to find a way to make money. And Ralph gets angry at a sign, and he throws a sign, and it lands on top of someone's avatar. So in the real world, it just looks like your internet has been disconnected. Which, I was like, oh my god, I don't have internet. What do I do? And I like those jokes that pop up whenever like one of the avatars gets like destroyed or something like that, or that's just like, oh, your internet connection has been terminated, or your internet connection has failed, or something like that, because your avatar kind of got destroyed by Ralph or by someone else. And what ends up happening is they're like, okay, well, we need to find a way to make money, and they end up going back to the guy who's JP Spamley, I think is his name. And he is, this, netizen who's like the pop-up ad type of thing. And like they go with him, and they go to his very seedy looking website area. And he explains to them that, okay, well, here's what it is. People around the world are willing to pay you money to go into these different video games and get these items for them. And then they will pay you. And, it's like all the small things like aren't really all that useful. So it's like, well, do you have anything big that we can go after? And he sends them after this car from this game that is called Slaughter Race. Grand Theft Auto, Burnout Paradise, whatever you refer to it as. It's called Slaughter Race in the game, or in the movie. Personally, I have never been very good at driving games. I think I've mentioned this in something before, but I am not good at driving video games that require driving a car or a bike or motorcycle or whatever the case may be. I'm not very good at them. I mean, I can kind of do them, but I don't know if it was just like I'm just not wired in the right way to be able to play them very well because it takes me so many tries, or I just am not designed to do like racing games. I'm not sure. But I'm not good at that. But like, so he sends them into this game, and they need to get this car that belongs to this character called Shank. Not Shanks from One Piece, Shank. Although I think Shanks from One Piece and Shank from Slaughter Race in this would actually get along very well. Would actually probably get along quite nicely. They're both really nice characters that are really cool. And if you make them angry, you're in trouble. But like they get into the game, and like they see these other, they find the game, and like Slaughter Race is just like this big over the top, like just like dystopian type thing, like, Grand Theft Auto stuff going on all over the place, cars blowing up, everything, is going on in this game. And, it's like the closest thing that you're kind of going to get to like Breaking Bad references and like actually seeing things like that in Disney that's not like the sheep from, Zootopia. But this is like the closest thing that you're going to get to like Sons of Anarchy in, like Disney. And what ends up happening is they find the car, and then they see these two users that show up that like are in real life, or like two kids that are playing the game. Um, and they get to like where the car is, and like they're about to steal it, and then of course Ralph and Vanellope are watching this, and then they see like the characters that are in the game, like Shank and her crew, show up, and they like kill the two users that are playing it, the two gamers. And Ralph is just like scared, and I don't blame him, because as was set up in the original movie, if you die outside of your video game, you don't respawn, because your code is not there to help you respawn. Because like if Ralph dies in his game, or if Felix dies, and Fix and Felix, if they die there, then they instantly get brought back to life. Same thing if like Vanellope or any of the racers died while they were in Sugar Rush, they got brought back to life. We saw that this didn't apply, that this didn't work with King Candy, because of the fact that his game was originally Turbo, and that's where his code was. And yeah, he messed with the code that was in Sugar Rush to get himself to be King Candy and to get himself this new appearance, but he didn't respawn after he was destroyed as the giant Cybug King Candy thing that he was at the end of the first movie, because his code was not part of Candy Rush, or was not part of Sugar Rush. Now, also on top of that, Sugar Rush isn't really a game where like the characters die necessarily, because it's not that type of a game. It's just like a racing game, and like the characters don't seem to really get that hurt, even if they are hit by one of the gumballs or whatever the case may be. But they still have to be kind of cautious whenever they're outside of their game. So like Ralph and Vanellope have to be very cautious while they're on the internet. And Ralph was just like, oh no, we stay here. If we die here, we are dead. We cannot come back. And what ends up happening is they come up with this plan to get the car. But I like the fact that we see like Shank and her crew interacting with each other, and like they're all just like very nice and polite for the most part. One of them is called Pyro, and he has like flamethrower things on his back and everything. And he's just like, I don't understand why we have to keep destroying them. I mean, like, they got it this far. And like, I love the fact that he has, like, a British accent or something like that. And they're like, but Shanks is like, but where's the life lesson in that? The life lesson is don't try to steal your car, or if someone does try to steal your car and it succeeds, to drive very, very quickly and very well to get away from you, and do it when you don't know that they stole it. So I love that joke in the movie. And like, the other one is called like Butcher Boy, and he's like, I watched this TED Talk recently, and he's like this big, hulking guy. He's like, I watched this TED Talk recently, and I don't remember what it said, but I remember how it made me feel. And it's like, I honor you, and it's just like they're just like the exact opposite of what you would think there are. And like one of them's called Felony, who's like Melanie/Felon, so felony type joke there. And she's just like, yeah, I know, type. It's just like they're just all funny, fun characters, and it's like you don't expect them to be this way just based on how they initially look, of course. And Ralph and Vanellope kind of come up with this plan on how they can get the car. So what Ralph does is he goes around to the front of this, big garage type thing, and he bangs on the door, and he gets their attention. He's like, I'm from the noise complaint department, and we've been getting a lot of complaints from noises, about noises going on here. And, we just, blah, 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 blah. And he's, like, basically acting as distraction. And, like, Vanellope, like, sneaks down and sneaks into the, Shank's car. And she, like, looks at the car, and she's like, oh, my God, this car is so cool. And I'm like, I'm not a racing person, but yeah, I will admit, Shanks' car is pretty cool. Shanks' car is pretty dang cool. And in all honesty, if Shanks from One Piece had a car in real life, I'm pretty sure it'd be a really cool looking car too. Just because, and like, admittedly, because I'm such a One Piece fan, when I, first saw this movie, and it's like, oh, the character's name is Shank. I know that's just like a reference to like, you shank someone in prison, you like stab them. But I'm just like, Shanks. I just find that funny whenever I hear that. But Vanellope, manages to get the car started, to steal it, and like drives out and like gets Ralph on the windshield, and then we have Shank and the rest of her crew are like chasing Vanellope and Ralph through the city. And like Vanellope's doing like all this great driving maneuvers and everything like that. And Shank is impressed, and the other characters like impressed about how well Vanellope is driving. And what ends up happening is they almost get out of the game. Vanellope and Ralph almost get out of the game, but they get stopped by Shank and her crew. And then Shank is basically like, okay, I gotta give you props on your driving, little one. But, you don't steal my car. And like Ralph kind of breaks down and explains everything that happened. He's just like, her game got broken and it's getting up there. It's all my fault and I just need my blah, 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 blah. And like, Ralph just breaks down crying and explains everything to her. And like Shay just kind of waits about. She's like, okay, are you done now? Are you okay now? Yeah. And then Ralph's like, yeah. And she goes like, okay, so I admire your compassion. You're going to give us the car? No. But I am going to tell you a better way about how to be able to get money. So she like has one of her friends like pull out their phone and like start filming Ralph, and like she has Pyro who has like he puts the blowtorch type thing, the flamethrower at Ralph, not fire coming out of it, just like like the air coming out of it instead of I'm assuming he has like different controls, but he just like is like blowing really like blow drying Ralph's face, and she goes like, put your hand in the air and just like say something. I'm gonna wreck it. So it's he just they film that, and then like they set him up with a BuzzTube account, which is play off on like BuzzFeed and YouTube, of course. And she tells him, okay, here's what you do. You go to BuzzTube and you go and talk to my friend Yes, who's the head algorithm. You go and talk to her, and she'll help you get the money that you need for this. Okay? And so like they start, and Vanellope really likes Shank, and like Ralph can kind of tell that right off the bat that she really likes her. And Shank likes Vanellope too. And like they get down, or Ralph and Vanellope get out of Slaughter Race, and Ralph wants to go back to where Spamley is, but Vanellope is just like, no, we're gonna go to BuzzTube because that's what Shank told us to do. And in all honesty, out of the two characters, Shank actually seems to be the slightly more reliable one than Spamley. Not that Spamley's not a nice guy. It's just there's a lot of stuff that doesn't look very, safe around him, type of thing. And, so they head to BuzzTube, and like Ralph is already kind of popular on BuzzTube from the video and everything. And like, so you see like all the different, he starts getting all these different hearts from these different, from the avatars and stuff like that, which of course are a representation of like, hearts that, like likes on YouTube, of course. You get hearts and stuff like that. I know other websites have like kudos and things like that. And, so many views that go into the video and everything. And, Ralph and Vanellope end up finding their way up to where Yes's office is. One of the other things I love about the BuzzTube that they show is like you see in the background, there's like layers and layers and layers of, videos on top of each other. There's cat videos, there's dog videos, there's, makeup tutorials, all this other stuff that are all going on in the background. And I love how attention to detail they paid for that. How much attention to detail they used for that. And when, they get their way up to, the head algorithm, Yes, who's this very fashionable, determines what's good, what's not, that type of thing. Like her assistant, maybe. I like that. And like they're, they interact with Ralph and Vanellope, and they're just like, who are you and why is there a hobo in my office type of thing is like the way that Yes is going. And I mean, like, we of course find out a little bit more about her later. Her intention is not to be mean by any means. It's just she's this algorithm that is designed to determine what is good and what is not good. And to whatever the Yes version of the algorithm is on YouTube, I don't do mean videos or anything like that, but if he could get me a little closer to some of the other ones that, like these videos, that would be helpful. That might be a nice thing to do. So hi to whatever the Yes algorithm is on YouTube that does not involve me getting, being seen by crazy people. But, Ralph and Vanellope explain who, Ralph is, and like, oh yeah, you're the one with the video that's going, really, really popular right now. And like, oh, you've gotten like a bunch of hearts and everything like that. They're like, okay, well, how does that work? And Vanellope was like, well, Shank told us that you could help us turn, likes into money or something like that. And Yes is like, oh yes, I can. The algorithm, is like designed to, so many hearts equals so much cash. And Ralph explains it was like, well, I'm just going to do all the videos. Every single bit that you can think of, I will do it. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do this. And she's like, flood the market. All in order to get this little girl A steering wheel. You got my assistance here. We're gonna do everything with you. Yes, it's just like, yes, okay, this is what we're gonna do. You're gonna do this, and I'm gonna help you with that, and we're gonna do this, and you're gonna be a star, and we're gonna get that little girl her steering wheel. And and so they just start, Ralph just starts filming all these different types of videos. Like he does, what is it? He does makeup tutorials and does eats like a ghost pepper for like the ghost pepper challenge. He's like a screaming goat, video of that. He does like baking and like sets a pie on fire. He does like, bad version of a makeup tutorial. As I said, he's like, comments on like, cute puppies. He does like dancing videos. He does like, him as like Bob Ross painting, which is funny. And like just all this other stuff all over the place. And I just find that so funny that it's just like, okay, what can we have Ralph do? Blah, 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 blah. Just like so much other stuff. And like Ralph seems to be having some form of fun with this, but it's also just like, oh my god, and like it's just like popping up all over the place. Everybody's just like, so many people like all over the country, I don't know about the world, but at least all over the country, like, hey, it's Ralph, and blah 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 from that game, and they just start seeing everything and everything, and like he gets getting lots and lots of likes and views and everything like that. And we keep popping in and out of between, that world, the internet and the real world, and like seeing the characters interacting with the game, with, the videos and stuff like that. And, and then we get Yes having like a General Patton moment where she's like in front of this video of Ralph and explaining like in it, like a general's type way of like explaining to like all of her netizens who are like all of her like pop-up ads, just like, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get this man all over the internet and you're gonna help me, and we're gonna get this little girl her steering wheel. And I just love that concept. I love that joke. And like all of the all the pop-up ads head off all over the place, like start getting people to come and like see the BuzzTube stuff and like see Ralph's videos and everything, and it's really, really good. And like we see the likes just going up and up and up and up and up. And what ends up happening is Vanellope is just like, well, I want to help too. I mean, we're trying to save my game, so can I go be a pop-up ad somewhere? And Yes is just like, well, that's okay. Like Ralph's very apprehensive about like letting Vanellope leave because like for 6 years, the only time that they weren't exactly around each other was like during the day when the arcade was open. Like Ralph had to be in his game and Vanellope was in her game. But even at that point, they were quote unquote at work, and Ralph's wrecking stuff, and Vanellope's driving around racing and everything like that. And this is they're kind of being separated outside of that. And Vanellope heads off to go be a pop-up ad, and Ralph in a very large attempt to keep her, of course, away from the slaughter race. He sends her to, well, how about this colorful area, and with this big pink castle? She is technically a princess, and they send her to the Oh My Disney website area. Yeah. And like Vanellope gets sent there, and she like starts seeing everything that's there, and she like it's like I love the Oh My Disney area, because it's like I use a lot of the Oh My Disney places to get the notes for these videos and stuff like that, because there's really good notes on the Oh My Disney stuff to use for like the Wikipedia for this stuff, so they're very helpful. And Vanellope sees all this other stuff. We see Baymax, we see Buzz Lightyear, we see Stormtroopers, we see Iron Man, we see the Disney princesses, of course, are there, and all this other stuff that's going on and everything. And Vanellope is just like, where the heck am I? We see Eeyore talking to Vanellope, it's just like everything. And Vanellope goes off to be like a pop-up ad. And we see these people in like line talking to like Groot, getting answers from Groot for like a Q&A session type thing. And like it's just like these over the top questions, or nicer questions, or bigger questions, and it's just Groot. I am Groot. I am Groot. And it's baby Groot. I actually have baby Groot up there as a pop vinyl. Or is that teenage Groot? I don't remember. It's one of them. I don't remember if it's baby Groot or teenage Groot, but it's one of them. It's I am Groot. And like we sent Vanellope starts sending people to where to the Ralph videos and everything, and then she gets chased by stormtroopers because she's a pop-up ad. And they chase her all over, and she like runs past an avatar that's obviously a Stanley nod in it, and I love it. And they run past him, and she runs past like Grumpy and Hey Hey and Tinkerbell and Peter Pan, and then she runs past like Nick from Zootopia, and she's running all over the place, getting past everyone. Like, I love all the references that you see in the background of these things. Like, she's in like the cast members only area and everything, and then she ends up glitching into the room where all of the princesses are, because she's being chased by the first order stormtroopers, of course, and she glitches into there. And she ends up, all the princesses literally, like, as soon as they see her, they're all just like, they go into like princess attack mode, as I call it. And I find it so funny because like they all have like a weapon. And I'm gonna do a different video at some point where I like more break down this scene, and then the scene where Vanellope interacting with the princesses, and then the scene at the end where the princesses all save Ralph. I'm gonna do another video where like I analyze those a little bit more, but I love it. It's like all the princesses have different weapons, and like Vanellope's like, oh my god, please stop! I'm a princess too, and then it's like, really? And like they all list stuff like, you have magic hair, magic hands, were you cursed, enslaved, or kidnapped, poisoned, blah 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 blah. And I love Vanellope's answer of like, oh my god, are all of you okay? Type of thing, like looking at everyone. Hence why I pulled out my this is actually a newer shirt. It's kind of a horrorized version of Snow White a little bit. We see like all the poison apples, and then the poison apple she's holding is actually open, and it looks like there's a brain inside of it, which is kind of disturbing but kind of cool, because we see Snow White carrying like the poison apple that's like dripping poison throughout the course of the movie. And they're like, or it's like, oh my god, are all of you okay? Yeah. And it's just like, like they all list off different things that they've done, and I just find that so funny. And again, I'm gonna do a better, go through that scene at one point, and they're just like, do you have daddy issues? I don't even have a mom. Neither do we. And then like, I love her puzzle. She's like, okay, so let's try this one for the last one. Does everybody think all of your problems were solved because a big, strong man came into your life? Yes, she's a princess. And then they start complimenting like her nice soft clothes and everything like that. And like she's like, oh, these things, yeah, they're really comfortable, they're just my normal clothes and everything. And like, and then we Cinderella's like, these clothes would be nice, I'm gonna get my Masonic Batman theme. And then all the princesses are in like the all the princesses are now in like lounge clothes. And as I pointed out in previous videos, I have talked about these, where you get to see all the different princesses in these different outfits and everything like that. And I've broken down a little bit more in like each of the videos, and I'll do that again when I do like this, like a more breakdown of the scene, just because I love the scene. Knowing me, I could do like an hour-long video on this scene combined with the scene at the end where they save Ralph. But I will try not to make it that long when I do that. But when it's like, so they all have like the lounge clothes, and they're all just relaxing and everything. And then Ariel literally is about to start singing about how happy she is to have like a t-shirt. And Vanellope's like, whoa, 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 back up. There were lights and there was music, and what just happened? And it's just like, well, that happens whenever any of us are going to sing. Music shows up, the lights center on us. It's just what happens. And like, I love the fact, and by technicality, every one of the princesses have had songs except for Merida. And we see Merida there because she's an official Disney princess. And I love the joke, and I was like, this is just the only time I'm going to get to reference it until I loop around and do like the Brave video when I go through the Pixar movies. But like, with Brave, Merida doesn't sing. Merida doesn't sing in the movie. There is songs in the movie in the background as like, the soundtrack for the movie and like the end credits and everything like that. But Merida herself does not sing. But like all the other ones do, in their respective movies, do have at least one song, one way or the other. Or, they have their own song, or they have the song where they sing with the prince, or whatever the case may be. And, they're all, they all explain to her. It's like, well, that happens. And it's just like, but how does that work? And like Vanellope tries to sing, and she tries to sing about a steering wheel, and it doesn't work because it's not exactly what she wants. And it's like, well, sometimes you have to stare into water. Water, important water. I look into the ocean. I stare into a wishing well. I do this. I stared into a river. You have to stare into important water, and like, your song will come to you. And and then like C3PO comes in and says, the next Disney, who's your Disney Princess BFF game is going to be starting in 5 minutes, so everybody needs to get ready. And like he heads back out, and like I love that. And so they all get ready, and like Vanellope goes off on her own. And Ralph has been doing so many of these different videos and everything like that. And his last one is like a bee pun video where he's like opening a box, and like he opens the box, and out come like bees that start attacking him. Um, and that's him and Yes are working on getting that ready to go up, and they have like 30 minutes until the deadline for him to be able to pay for the steering wheel. And what ends up happening is we get like internet problems going on, but like Yes is like, okay, Ralph heads down to the floor to do as much as he can, and like him like running around is like trying, changing people's videos and like forcing the likes to his area, and like we see how that's like interacting with the real, like everybody's videos get like changed to one of the Ralph videos or something like that. And so it's like messing with that way. And then he ends up going into the comment section, and while he's in there, he sees some nice comments, but then he sees all of these really mean comments about himself. He's just a bum that lives in a pile of bricks is one of them. And like, all these other horrible things. He's just a villain. He's, all these other horrible things. And Ralph is just like seeing all of these horrible, mean comments about him. And he's just like, and he just gets so, disheartened and everything. And like, Yes comes in and she's like, I should have warned you not to read the comments. And she like, she tries to help him, cheer him up and everything like that. And she's like, well, you shouldn't listen to these people. They're just, mean people, and, tries to, help Ralph and everything like that. And then she's like, and we got all the hearts you needed. We got all the money that you needed, and, extra in order to get, the steering wheel. And, Ralph thanks her, and he, heads off to go to eBay. Like, we had the e-boy keep popping up, who, represents, telling him how much longer he has until his time expires for him to get the steering wheel. And Ralph heads to eBay and, pays for the steering wheel and everything. And like he tells Vanellope, I got the steering wheel. I'm heading there. I'm going to pay for the steering wheel. We got the money and everything like that. I'll meet you outside of, eBay in like 5 minutes or whatever. And Vanellope at this point in time is attempting to stare into important water. It's a puddle from a knocked over bucket, I guess. And she's, trying to figure out how to, what her song is. And then she ends up, picturing herself in Slaughter Race, and, this is where we get the song, this place called Slaughter Race, which, okay, forewarning, Alan Menken, who wrote like the songs for like The Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast and a bunch of other stuff, he wrote the song A Place Called Slaughter Race for this, because why not? So yeah. And like, Vanellope starts, dreaming about being in, Slaughter Race, and like her, Shank is there, and Shank is singing with her and everything like that. And the different characters are in the background, and like we see like tattoo artists, we see people getting mugged and stuff getting stolen, we see creepy clowns, we see a sewer shark that has dogs inside of it, we other characters singing on cars and dancing and like dressed as the characters from Slaughter Race, and Vanellope flying into the air in her own racing car and everything like that, like just having a whole bunch of fun with it, and just like so many other things. And her and Shank having a lot of fun and singing and dancing, and Vanellope like realizing that this place called Slaughter Race is the place where she wants to be, is where she feels like home again. And Ralph is and so that's where we get Vanellope all happy there and everything like that, or figuring that out for herself. And then we cut to Ralph, and he's of course paid for the steering wheel, and he's got it all set to be delivered to Litwax Arcade and everything like that, so it'll be there before like the salvage guys show up. And what ends up happening is Ralph tries to call Vanellope again, and he's on mute because they had like these two little communication things that they got from Yes that help them communicate with each other. via BuzzTube. And Ralph calls Vanellope, but his is on mute, or her end is on mute. And he ends up hearing Vanellope have this conversation with Shank about, Vanellope wanting to stay in, Slaughter Race, and, but, Ralph wouldn't understand, and, like, all this other stuff, and, like, Ralph gets very upset about this, of course. Understandably, he feels like he's losing his best friend. And, Shank is giving Vanellope, really good advice and everything like that. And she's like, the thing that I wish I had learned a long time ago, or learned sooner, was that best friends don't always have to be, together. You can still be best friends even if you're really far apart. And, so Vanellope, wants to stay in Slaughter Race. And Ralph was talking to his family, and his family is like, "Ooh, that's pretty harsh there. I'm sorry. I'm glad you got your steering wheel, but I'm glad about, but I'm sad about what just happened for you." And Ralph is just like, "I gotta find a way to get her out of Slaughter Race, or make her not want to stay in Slaughter Race. Do you have a virus, or know anyone that can make a virus?" Yes, because it's a wonderful idea to go and talk about a virus on the internet. And his family takes him to his acquaintance, who is called Double Dan, who is this disgusting looking thing. And, don't like Double Dan. His design is just gross, and it grosses me out, which is the whole point of it. And he gives Ralph this virus that's called Arthur, that is an insecurity virus. It goes through and copies an insecurity in a game and then spreads it to the rest of the game. And, Ralph releases that into Slaughter Race. And what ends up happening in Slaughter Race is it ends up copying Vanellope's glitch, and starts spreading that to all of, other areas in the game. So the game itself starts to glitch and has lots of problems. So they need to reboot the server. Problem: if Vanellope is inside when they reboot the server because her code is not part of the actual game, she dies. So Shank actually runs out and finds Ralph, and Ralph runs in, and helps and gets Vanellope out of there just before it restarts, just before it, shuts down to reboot. And, Vanellope had been having fun with the rest of them, but, she was having insecurity still about leaving Ralph and everything, and that's what the virus copied. And Ralph was supposed to make sure that the virus, got destroyed or got grabbed back again in Slaughter Race, so that way it didn't spread any more viruses, and it didn't, and it escaped. But what ends up happening is Ralph and Vanellope end up having this huge fight because of the fact that Ralph explains that he's the one that sent in the virus. And then, Vanellope is just extremely angry at him and everything like that. And, he's like, "Well, I heard what you told Shanks and how you don't want to be my friend and, blah, 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 blah." And Vanellope gets so angry at Ralph. And I don't blame her in the slightest. She grabs his, cookie hero medal that she made him in the first movie, and she throws it over the edge of one of the buildings, and it falls and falls and falls. And Vanellope is just like, "I never want to see you again," and, like, runs off. And, Ralph, climbs down to go try to find, go find the medal. But what ends up happening is Arthur, the virus again, saw Ralph and saw how insecure he was, and scans Ralph's insecurities, and then, like, makes copies of that again and again and again and again. And, Ralph finds the medal, and it's broken in half. And, what ends up happening is he gets attacked, and then all these different virus versions of Ralph show up, and they start trying to capture Vanellope. And what ends up happening, of course, is they're trying to capture Vanellope, they keep multiplying and everything. And Vanellope goes and, like, hides with More and everything like that. And, during this whole time frame, More explains to her that's like, "Okay, so here's what you have to do. You have to, like, lure them into this place that has, like, this security thing, and it'll, like, destroy them." So, like, okay, so, we need something that can do that. And Vanellope and Ralph have, Ralph showed up, and, like, him and Vanellope, for the time being, are kind of, like, putting things on hold, because Ralph, of course, wants to protect Vanellope and everything, and Vanellope wants to protect the internet, because everything is going haywire on the internet. There's, like, this, it's being stated that there's, like, this Ralph virus going worldwide and everything, like, causing communication shut down everywhere and everything like that, all over the internet. And like, so many of the different things are having so many problems, and like I love how they show this in the real world, like Ralph's face popping up all over the place, and so many other things. And we see like the Ralphs climbing the buildings and everything, and like like overtaking everything. And Yes shows up, and Yes is going to help them like lure the clones to get destroyed by the security wall. And that doesn't end up going well because all of the Ralphs kind of form into a giant Ralph. And the way that they kind of describe this, and the way that they explained it in the bonus features, is it's based off of fire ants. Because fire ants will like glom onto each other so they can like cross rivers, and like they will just destroy everything in their path. And so Ralph, the real Ralph, tries to, of course, fight the giant copy of himself, the giant, homogenous blob giant clone version of himself made up of tiny clone versions, tiny virus versions of himself, are trying to stop them and trying to save Vanellope. And that doesn't go well. And the viruses, of course, just want Vanellope because it's feeding off of Ralph's insecurity about having Vanellope as a friend and thinking that she's going to leave him, which that's not Vanellope's intention. But we get this moment where the virus is about to like crush Ralph and destroy him, and Vanellope is just like, fine, stop. I will go with you. If you don't hurt him, I will go with you, and it'll just be you and me. And it causes Ralph to have to like finally face his own insecurity, literally and metaphorically. Literally in the fact that the giant virus version of himself up there, and metaphorically in the fact that now he has to like face his own inner demons and face his own insecurities about him putting his value in how much Vanellope likes him, when he should put his value in how much he likes himself, type of thing. And he we have this moment where he does this big speech about it's like I need to let her go because she can go and have fun in her own place and everything like that, and be where she feels happy, and all that whole thing. That's like this extension of what he had to learn at the end of the first movie, where it's it's like, yeah, I'm a villain, I'm a bad guy, but I'm not bad, and I'm a bad guy, and that's not bad, and blah 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 blah, that he has to learn at the end of the first movie. And what ends up happening is this causes all the other viruses to kind of like destroy themselves, disintegrate, because that insecurity that they were copied from is gone. It's also just kind of like we need a way to stop the giant thing, and having Ralph do that kind of gets rid of his insecurity or faces him, and then they get to pop out and blah 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 blah. So yeah, they all kind of vanish and fall, go away, and then Ralph had been hovering in the air, and then now he's just like falling to his doom. And I mean, this is when like all the princesses are like, oh, a big strong man who's in need of help, and they all rush into action and everything, and they again, I'll break the scene down better at another point in time. Water, Ariel, Elsa, freeze, slide, dresses used as parachutes to catch Ralph and land him on a bed, and then kissed awake by Naveen as a frog, and he's in Snow White's dress, and like all the princesses working together. Again, I'll do a different video where I break down those two scenes a lot more, just because I want to, and I love them. And they just made my inner child the whole time when I'm watching those scenes back. Yay! Which is kind of the way that I am when I rewatch like Digimon that I haven't seen for a long time, or like other movies or shows that I haven't seen for a long time, that are from my childhood. I'm just like, yay, inner child happy. And like we get to see all the princesses being awesome and saving Ralph, and he's just like, where am I? Who are all of you people? We're friends of Vanellope. We saved your life. You're welcome. Okay, it's nice to meet all of you. And, so he gets to meet all of them, and like him and Vanellope are, reunited, and he's safe, and Vanellope's safe. And, then we cut to kind of the end, and it's Ralph and Vanellope saying goodbye to each other. Shanks says that she's added Vanellope's code into Slaughter Ray, so she'll be able to respawn, which makes Shanks smarter than King Candy / Turbo, which I just find funny. So Vanellope will be safe in the game, and she can respawn at any point in time if something happens to her. And like Ralph and Vanellope still have like the communicator things from BuzzFeed, so they can talk to each other. And what ends up happening is, they of course hug and everything, and like Ralph gives Vanellope a piece of the medal that, so it's like it's like it started out as the heart medal, and now it's like the friendship thing kind of broken in half. It's like kids have had those. It's like you have like the two friendship, it says best friends on it and everything like that, and you keep those with your friends and all that fun stuff. Um, and you have one, I have one, or like if there's more than one of you have more than one best friend that are all best friends together, then you each have part of the necklace or whatever the case may be, or bracelet or whatever whatever the heck it is. Friendship earrings, not so much. Necklaces, bracelets, sure. Rings, maybe. But like so they hug, and Vanellope heads off to go into Slaughter Race, and Ralph heads back to the arcade. And, Litwack got the steering wheel, so that got delivered, so the Sugar Rush is fine again, so all the characters were able to go back to Sugar Rush and be happy there again. And, we get, like, this catch-up with, like, the other characters, and apparently Calhoun and Felix were really good parents to all the racers, and all the racers, really polite and everything like that. And, like, the two parents, Calhoun and Felix are sitting there talking to, like, the surge protector or whatever he's called, the security guy. And they're just like, he's just like, how did you do this? How did you get them to be better? And like, we have this, like, the joke is like, Felix and, Calhoun are like telling him like how to make perfect children and like everything else. I'm like, you had them for like less than a day, or like less than like a day and a half, or whatever the heck the case was, for however long you had them. And now they're just like, they're talking the way that Felix goes, gosh darn it, and I wish you had won. No, I wish you had won, type of thing. And like, but like the joke is that like, while they're telling the surge protector how to do this, it's like all the racers are like driving past, so you can't hear them. So you can't hear what they're actually saying. And then like it comes back and it's like, I wish every parent could have heard that. And it's just like yeah type of thing. Where he's just like, oh my god. But like so they're all happy again and everything, and like Ralph joins like this book club that's like a bunch of these other characters, and like for some reason I think they're talking about like Dostoevsky because like it's like Zangief, and Zangief is from Street Fighter. I'm not super familiar with Street Fighter, but he's like the really buff, macho looking wrestler one, I think. And like the very small shorts, and like that looks waxed except for his chest and his knees. And like Sonic is part of the book club, and like Hubert and like a bunch of them are part of the book club, and so that's just kind of funny. And like they have this thing where it's like every Friday they all meet up in a different game, and like have food and have a big dinner party and everything like that. And like Ralph baked like blackened pie, and all this other fun stuff for the characters. And we see Ralph and Vanellope still communicating with the holographic communicator things that like Yes gave them. And like Vanellope, so there's like they're still talking and everything like that, and still being friends, and that doesn't change. They can still communicate. It's just that Vanellope can't come and visit as much. Ralph could probably still go to like her place, at night, between when the arcade's closed and when it opens again, and between like days if the arcade's just closed on certain days. Like I'm assuming the arcade's like closed on certain holidays or different things like that, depending on stuff. Considering that Lickwack seems to be like the only employee, maybe, I don't know. But like so they get they take Ralph, that Ralph and Vanellope are still talking, and she's like, it's like, I cannot find, as much as I love being here, there's one thing I cannot find here on the internet that's a good thing, a good burger, time burger. And he's like, well, I'll bring him around the next time I come to visit you. And so it's like, and then Ralph heads off to work, and Vanellope goes to be do her racing and everything in the Slaughter Race, be her character. Which I'm just like, a lot of people are like, I'm sure like in the real world, like the people that were like interacting with it and like playing are just like, wait a second. Why is there a small child in this game now? Type of thing. And it's just like, it must just be like a new character they designed for it or whatever. Then again, the copy, Sugar Rush went out of business. So I would assume like the Sugar Rush people wouldn't really be able to do anything to try to claim whatever legal rights or whatever they would still have to Vanellope possibly in regards to the character design. But so we see that and everything, and everybody's happy, and then we cut through to the end, the mid credit scene. And the mid-credit scene has a toddler. Moana is a baby toddler version of Moana, and her name's Mo. And we have the woman who's driving the car, who's her mother in the movie, is actually the same character design and voice actress for the Sina, who's her mom, of course, in Moana. So I like that callback that they did there. And until I actually saw this, I didn't actually remember, or I hadn't realized that the baby in the car was baby Moana. It was like little Moana from the movie. I hadn't realized that until like that was pointed out to me in the notes for the Moana video, and I'm just like, oh, I didn't realize that. Okay, that's fun. And she's like, well, I was mad because they had a scene in the movie, in the trailers, that wasn't in the movie, and that makes me sad. And she was like, well, why don't you play your game? And this is where we get the whole, the bunny and the cat, with the bunny with the pancakes and the cat with the milkshakes, and Vanellope and Ralph, feeding them, and then, feeding the rabbit way too many pancakes, and then it pops, and then then Mo in the Mo in the car is just like freaking out, which I love, which I just find hilarious. And then of course the post credit scene way at the end it's supposed to be a sneak peek of Frozen 2, but it's not. It's Ralph rickrolling them and singing "Never Gonna Give You Up," of course, and he actually sings it quite well. Because the thing is John C. Reilly, who voices Ralph, which I'll get to the cast in a second, is actually a singer. He can sing. He was in the theater or the musical movie version of Chicago with Renee Zellweger and so many other amazing singers and such, and he was in that as I think it was Renee Zellweger's character's husband. He's the husband of the woman who goes to jail in Chicago, and it's been a long time since I've seen Chicago. But he's in that, and he does sing a song, I think that's called Mr. Cellophane or Cellophane Man or something like that, because he feels invisible. But they're singing everything, and it's just funny. Yeah, it's just funny. Now we get cast. Okay, so most of the characters that were in the original movie have their original voice actor back for them. Of course, the one exception being Taffeta, because Mindy Kaling didn't come back to play her because she's not extremely, too many things in the movie, or I just got Mindy Kaling was too busy doing something else at the time. Okay, so we of course have John C. Reilly as Wreck-It Ralph. Same guy that voiced him in the first movie. Sarah Silverman is Vanellope von Schweetz, princess / racer / president, although she's no longer in her game, so I don't know. We have, of course, Gal Gadot as Shank, and of course, Gal Gadot is most famously known at the moment for playing Wonder Woman. I find hilarious and funny. We have Taraji P. Henson as Yes, who's been in so many different movies, and she's so funny. She was also in another thing I watched recently was the Muppets Haunted Mansion, and she plays a character in that's just the serial killer bride type character, and she tries to marry and then kill the shrimp Pepe. And then we have Jack Breyer is back as Fix-It Felix Jr. We of course have Jane Lynch back as Sergeant Calhoun, excuse me. We have Bill Hader as J.P. Spamley. We have Alfred Molina as Double Dan. I do believe Alfred Molina, I think, also plays King Agnar in Frozen 2. And he is, of course, also Doc Ock in Spider-Man, both in the Tobey Maguire second Spider-Man movie, which I actually think is my favorite Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie. And then he's, of course, Doc Ock again in Spider-Man No Way Home, so we'll see how that goes. And he plays Double Dan. We have Alan Tudyk as Knows More. Alan Tudyk, of course, originally had played King Candy in the first movie, but he gets destroyed, and they don't want to bring him back to play that character again. So it's just well, we have this other character that's just search bar type characters, and Alec Tudyk is really good at doing all these different voices and everything like that, so let's bring him in, and he does Knows More, and he's so perfect as Knows More, and it's just funny. We have Ed O'Neill as Litwack, as Stan Litwack. Stanley reference there, I'm pretty sure. And he is also, I believe, the same guy that voiced Marlin in Finding Nemo and Finding Dory, if I remember correctly. And then we have Flula Borg as Maybe, who's, yes, his assistant and everything like that, who I'm not extremely familiar with. I know he's a comedian, but I'm not super familiar with anything else that he's done. So I apologize if you're like a huge Flula Borg fan. You're just like, oh, you're so uncultured. Then we get into the Disney meat. Okay, so one of the other things that I loved about this movie is that they tried to make sure that all the Disney princesses are still voiced by their original actress if that actress is still alive and is able to do the voice. And the main exceptions to this, obviously, are Snow White, unfortunately, because the original actress that played Snow White died a long time ago. Because that's coming up on like the 90th or 95th or whatever anniversary of that movie. But they have Paula Ribbon as Snow White. I think she does a great job. We have, again, the original actress that voiced Cinderella unfortunately has passed away a long time ago. But we, of course, have Jennifer Hale as Cinderella, who I've mentioned before. She played Cinderella in the different animated sequels that they did, the Cinderella 2, and then Cinderella 3, A Twist in Time. She played Cinderella there. She's played Cinderella as the voice of Cinderella in a lot of different of the video games, mostly the Kingdom Hearts video games, and like almost any time like Cinderella has popped up in different animated stuff for Disney, she's usually voiced by Jennifer Hale. Same thing with a lot of the different various merchandise. She's also Thorn from as I mentioned in the Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost review. She plays Thorn from the Hex Girls, and I believe she's also the female version of Commander Shepard in... Oh, frick. I don't remember the name of the video game, but she's like Commander Shepard in a big video game that I just do not remember the name of the game because I've never played it. Sorry. And then for Aurora, again, unfortunately, the actress that voiced Aurora has died a while ago because they're the three oldest of the Disney princesses. But we have Kate Higgins voiced her, who I think probably does like a lot of the Aurora voices and a lot of other Disney animated stuff. And then, of course, this is where we get, this part just makes me stop. We have Jodie Benson, of course, returning as Ariel, who, love her as Ariel. She's, of course, Ariel in, all three of the Little Mermaid movies. She's Ariel in, I believe, the entire way through the animated series they did. She's Ariel in, like, pretty much any other time Ariel pops up, I think, where she actually says something that's not just, like, archive, voice footage of her. And then, of course, we have Paige O'Hara returning as Belle, who, of course, was Belle in, Beauty and the Beast, and then Beauty and the Beast, Belle's Magic World, and Belle's, Enchanted Christmas. For those, and for, like, other times when Belle would pop up and stuff, it's usually Paige O'Hara. Because they wouldn't, I think they've avoided, like, the live-action versions of the princesses coming in and voice them, just because it's, like, that's a slightly different version of the princess. So, like, in this case, it would have been, like, if it had been, like, the live-action version of Snow White or Cinderella, it would have been, like, Lily James coming in and playing she played her in the live-action Cinderella, but they didn't do that, of course, because it's, Jennifer Hale does that perfect voice for the animated one. And then for, for Belle, it would have been, if they did the live-action one, it would be, of course, Emma Watson coming in and playing her. But they stuck with the actual voices for the actual Disney princesses themselves for the that setup. And then we have Linda Larkin as Jasmine, who voiced her in the Aladdin movies and series and everything. And then, of course, we have Irene Bedard as Pocahontas. And, again, from the two movies, from video games she pops up in. We have Ming-Na Wen as Mulan. Again, love her. She's also in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as Melinda May. She's, of course, in The Mandalorian as, I think she's Fennec or something like that is her character's name, who works with Boba Fett in the end, and she's going to be in House of Boba Fett, or House of Boba, or whatever it's called. That's going to be on, Disney Plus at some point in time. She, of course, pops up in, the live-action Mulan movie at one point in time. And then, of course, we have Anika Noni Rose, who, of course, is Tiana, of course. Played her, of course, in The Princess and the Frog, of course. And she's, she's from Dreamgirls. She's been in other movies amazingly, and she's, of course, an amazing singer. We have Mandy Moore, of course, coming back to reprise her role as Rapunzel. Again, the more recent ones are a little bit easier because, of course, like those actresses are still very much around and still have their voices in that same range. The only one that I'm not 100% sure about is Aurora, because I do not remember if the original actress that played Aurora has passed away yet. But even if she hasn't, she's a little bit too old to be able to still do her voice within that very young and light range that Aurora has. Um, so that's why they have the other lady, of course, come in and play her. Um, as I said, Mandy Moore plays Rapunzel, of course, from Tangled. And then, of course, we have Kelly Mcdonald as Merida. And, of course, Merida is an official Disney princess, even though she's from Pixar. And they make the joke in the movie because, like, the one time that you hear Merida talk in the movie, she's, like, extremely harsh, played up version of a Scottish accent. And you can't really understand her. And I love it. And, like, Penelope's like, what did she say? We're not sure. We can't understand her either. She's from the other studio. Which I just find so funny. And of course, I just watched in Once Upon a Time. I just watched the Merida setup that they have in Once Upon a Time for Brave, which at one point in time, when I do end up going through the Pixar movies, of course, I'll talk about Brave. And then we have Kristen Bell, of course, as Anna. And we have, Idina Menzel as Elsa. So you have them coming back, of course, very recently to voice those characters. And of course, the next movie that I'll be doing the review of for Disney movies will, of course, be Frozen 2, and they'll be having them, of course, come back because they pretty much have the characters return for that series, for that one. And then, of course, we have Ayuli Cravalaho. Again, I apologize for mispronouncing her name. I did that in the Moana video. I apologize again. Is, of course, Moana. And then, of course, for Jacques and Gus, who are, Cinderella's two little mice friends, we just have Jimmy Mcdonald using a voice archive voice footage because they just have like sounds that they make. They don't actually like speak in it. Tim Allen archive footage is, of course, as Buzz Lightyear. We have Brad Garrett as Eeyore. We have Corey Burton as Grumpy, who's been in so many other different things as various other Disney characters and other video games characters. And the thing that I liked about Grumpy is in the scene where you see Grumpy, where you see, Penelope running all over the place in the Oh My Disney area trying to escape the stormtroopers, is you see Grumpy and he's like eating soup, and that is a reference to in Snow White. There had been a deleted song that was like the dwarves eating soup that like Snow White had made for them for dinner, and so that's a reference callback to that. You have Vin Diesel, of course, voicing Baby Groot as just archive footage. You have Anthony Daniels coming back to voice C-3PO, of course, which I love. And then we have Roger Craig Smith as Sonic. And I think that was about the last one that I wanted to point out. And I think he just is like the voice of Sonic in a lot of the games. I mean, like a lot of the characters like in the movie, it's like, oh yeah, it's like when I was trying to explain what Wreck-It Ralph was to someone, I was just like, just take, okay, it's like, so are you familiar with like Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Yeah, just do that, but with video game characters. So instead of it being just like cartoon characters, it's video game characters that all interact with each other. I was just like, oh, okay, that makes sense. That's what it was. And this is now, it's just like, that meets Disney. And like, my opinion would have been the best reference that they could have thrown into the background would have been if you saw either Roger Rabbit or Jessica Rabbit in like very, not like prominently like, oh my god, here's Jessica Rabbit and here's Roger Rabbit in a scene, but like if you saw them in the background, that would have been a great reference back to that. That would have been funny. Unfortunately, we don't see that, but that would have been funny. But we see like, that's the other thing that I love about the Oh My Disney area is like you see all these different characters just like roaming around and running around that are just like, that character has no business being anywhere near that character, but I love it anyway and I don't care. Because it's Marvel and Disney and Pixar and Star Wars and like all this other stuff all thrown together in the Oh My Disney World, and I loved it. Because I'm a giant Disney nerd and I'm aware of that. Again, lots of development went into this movie in regards to stuff like they did lots of discussing of like, what they're going to do for the princess's outfits, other things to deal with like, designing the giant, Ralph Zilla thing, program made for that. So many other things that they had to develop for the movie to get everything the way that they wanted it to look. And like, you see this like the dark underbelly side of the internet, of course, when you go visit Double Dan. And then like later when Ralph is, digging through to find the metal, you see like this dark underside seedy area of the internet that's just like stuff that's, no longer useful, but it's still there. because, like, once it's on the internet, it's kind of there forever type of thing. And, and I will point this out in the movie, or in the bonus features, they do point out that the other song in the movie that they have over the end credits is, of course, they have another variation of, like, a place called Slaughter Race, sung, and I don't remember who the lady is that sings it, but, like, the lady that voices, Sarah Silverman, who voices, Vanellope, and Gal Gadot, who voices Shank, they sang a place called Slaughter Race. They were the ones that sang that song in the movie, and then they had another artist come in and play, do a more poppy version of it. Poppy, it still looks like a desolate world in the music video. And then, of course, you have Imagine Dragons come in and do their song Zero, is in the credits for that. But one of the things that they did point out in the bonus features is that when it came to the comments section, they wanted to put that in there as a way to make it that, like, parents and kids go to see this movie together, or, like, later on when the kids see it with their parents, it's like that scene there is, a lot about, like, cyberbullying and internet bullying and stuff like that. And, I was like, I'm on YouTube. I'm aware of the fact that people are probably going to end up posting, sometimes mean comments. And there is a difference between comments that are, like, constructive criticism for stuff that you can do better, or, like, well, try this instead of that. And then there's the other side of, like, they're just doing mean comments because they want you to feel bad. And there is a huge difference there. And, helping kids understand that, talking about that is a good thing. Talking about bad stuff, people being bullying to you or being mean to you and stuff like that is an important thing, because, that's not the way that it's supposed to be. You're not supposed to be treated that way. So I do like that they put that in there, that's an important thing that they wanted to make sure was available. That's why they put in the comments thing in the movie. And I am aware of the fact that, at some point in the future, if this channel ever does get popular, I'm sure people are going to do, like, mean comments or something like that, and I'm aware of that. For future warning, if you don't know this, if your comment is extremely mean, to the point where it's like, it's not you doing constructive criticism, it is you just wanting to be a giant a-hole, your comment will be getting deleted, because that doesn't need to be here. But if you do constructive criticism on something I can do better, I welcome that. I don't remember if I said that way back at the beginning of this channel with, like, my original introduction video, but constructive criticism is, of course, welcome. Things I can do better, other things you would like to see me do, perfectly welcome. Just because you don't like my shirt or don't like my hair, that's different. Or you don't like the way that I dress, that's your problem. Then don't watch it. Just listen to it, is my answer. So, just wanted to tack that on there at the end for this. So, that's what I have. I thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. And remember about what Ralph tried to teach you, and the fact that, yeah, it is kind of to a degree important about what people think of you, but it's also important that you are comfortable in your own skin. And that's, of course, a very important thing as well. So, bye.
Shank's lived a lot. She's seen a lot. Yet she's got nothing but kindness in her heart.